PGA Golf Show from Awesemo.com. Myself, Ben Raza here. Look who's back. One week hiatus for Jason Roslin. You're back. Couldn't miss out on the JDC.
Dude, I honestly didn't know if I was going to make it back. I got to be honest. When you become a parent, when you become, I don't know. You don't have to tell me. This is not the stage for that. But if it ever does happen and you get that whole homesickness that runs through the house and you know it's going to get to you, all the parents that are watching this show and grandparents, whoever's watching, knows what it means. It's a plague. You just know that it's not there yet, but it's going to come to you. And you're like, come on. And then it hits. Anyways. We're going on to the John Deere Classic. We've got some fun things going on even with this show, don't we?
We do. This isn't the best tournament, but we do have some exciting news. We have a new sponsor, and it's majorschallenge.com. And they're a site that basically, if you want to run a pool with your friends, they kind of help you set it up, real-time scoring. You don't have to deal with spreadsheets, all that. Basically, it's a little different than what we're doing here, obviously. But if you are interested, you can sign up. You get a $50 credit. And the best part, obviously, they are offering – it's going to be a tough one, obviously. But if you pick a perfect lineup on their format, you can win $250K. So check out the website, majorschallenge.com/free. You can read about it, check it out. Different format. It is always fun, obviously, with golf.
Yeah, and the nice thing is you can set it up the way that you want to. And I know there's always a bunch of home games, whether it's for a week like this, where actually you might have a better chance of picking a perfect lineup than any other week. But especially with the British Open or the Open Championship coming up next week, it is a great time. A lot of people do home pools. And this is a great way to just get rid of that home scoring average and have to worry about adding up FedEx points or dollars at the end of the event. This just takes care of all that for you. So really cool. Happy to have them aboard and definitely check it out.
Absolutely. But as you said, obviously we have a major on deck, so this isn't the most glamorous week, but we still have some stuff to talk about. Obviously, you weren't here last week. What a wild tournament. I mean, it wasn't something I was looking forward to, but man, was I glued to the TV Sunday. What an amazing finish by the young guns and then Bryson.
It was. It had everything that you would want out of a PGA Tour tournament for me. It had the drama right to the end, and you just knew that Bryson was going to make the kids win it, and they did. It was awesome. It was so good to see. And Matt Wolfe, it just goes to show just a small little switch, going from that M6 back to the M5, which he used, throughout all of his college last year. Obviously when he signed on with TaylorMade, they gave him all the new equipment. It didn't work for him. He went back to his old stuff, and here he is, and he wins a golf tournament. Just awesome. And what I loved about this venue, I will say, that 18th hole, man, what fireworks it provided us. Two
Insane.
eagles, almost a third, and that 17th hole over water. Morikawa and Wolfe both kind of took it on. It was really good. I'm kind of excited for next year. I'm glad it's added to the calendar.
It was better than I thought, I will admit. Obviously, this is a weird stretch. We have some weak fields. But you know what? I think it has been better. I'm sure the tour is pretty happy with where we're at. And this is another week. It's obviously everyone is over in Scotland, and we're going to talk about that as well. But we still have some things. Look at that. You're ready. I have a shirt. Not really Scottish in nature.
You're making the bacon.
That's all I got going for me. We still have some stuff over here, obviously, with the young guys dominating the price range.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll jump into kind of our how we go about things. We always like to try and cover all the bases to give everybody, the best information that we can. And of course, if you're looking for more, always become an AwesemoPlus.com member. Ben and I do a ton of work inside for all the Plus members. So looks like the weather's going to be pretty good. Maybe just a tad windy tomorrow morning. You seeing anything different?
Not really. This is a course that obviously I think people are going to go low, even with a little wind. It doesn't look like anything that's going to skew scoring too much, maybe just a gust, but as long as it's not swirling, I haven't seen anything in terms of bad rain or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, and it is summer, so it doesn't matter where you live in the country. You're going to get pop-up storms. Obviously, maybe more of it in Florida where I live, but still anywhere. So it's bound to happen. So right off the bat, if you're ready to sweat golf at 7:30, looks like Central Time, so 8:30 Eastern Time, you got some powerhouses, and Neiman and Glover going off. They're paired with Seamus Power, speaking of power. And then right before them, Sung J M, Matt Every, and Kelly Craft. We'll start with those two. Just chat about them. Did you find yourself combining any of these guys? Matt Every kind of popped last week, and then I think he MDF'd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it went bad fast.
Yeah, it did. But he gets so hot where, and a guy like Max Homa, too, they ended up scoring more points than Taylor Gooch did, and Gooch played all 4 days. Just crazy how that works. But did you find yourself pairing any of these guys up?
Not really, to be honest. Matt Every's the type of guy a lot of people we've seen in the first round market. If you want to go for a first round leader or even in a showdown, you can target him. He just doesn't seem to be able to put it together for 72 holes. Obviously, I really like Sun J M this week. Neiman's another one. Those are marquee names. They are going off early, as you just mentioned. I don't know why they would start slow. They're not going to have the luxury of just being able to grind. You need to make birdies here. And out of the guys up top, those are actually two of my favorite.
Yeah, let's talk about Lucas Glover for a second, because I just want to give maybe a 10-second rant. I ended up having a pretty good week. It was a profitable week. I think I was up, 11% on my base for the week. So that's good. However, if Lucas Glover did not, let's back up. If Cam Davis did not triple bogey the 36th hole and bring all the -3s in, that means Lucas Glover doesn't shoot 62, 62, or whatever he did on the weekend to come in and tie for 6th. I probably win quite a bit more. He comes into this week now, one of the highest priced guys. Looks like ownership's going to be kind of high. What are you doing with him here? I'm not going to play him. I'm just like I did last week. I'm just not going to play him again.
Me neither. Not going to play him. And I think this is a perfect kind of point to make. Last week we talked about him, and I mentioned about he's a horrible bent grass putter. And what did he do? He gained 6 strokes putting on Sunday alone. And that happens. It doesn't mean that he can never do that. But it also doesn't mean that suddenly he is now a great putter, especially on bent grass. That is not true. So I have no problem kind of letting other people maybe chase that round on Sunday. As you mentioned, it's such a fine line. He should have been, packing his bags, shouldn't have even got in. And I didn't find myself really going to him this week.
What do you make of, since we just talked about Sung J M, I just want to bring him up. What do you make of Im's approach game? I mean, he has not gained more than a half a stroke on average since the Valspar, but yet still top 25ing. Still, I think he pulled off a top 10 in this stretch as well. Yeah, 5 weeks ago, a top 15. It's super consistent results without something that one would think would get him the scoring. What do you make of that? Are we worried about that at all, or do we just keep ignoring it?
It's a tough spot because, you look at some of these other guys, your boy Hovland, Neiman, these guys, tee to green, it's just out of control. They haven't put a lick. Sun J M, I think, is a little more well-rounded. He's really good around the green. He putts well, but at the same time, he rarely has those 7, 8 strokes gained, with the irons. You don't really see that. It's tough because I obviously want to see that, someone like Taylor Gooch literally gets by just by doing that. Yep. But at the same time, I do like the fact that when Im is a little off, he can find a way to stay in it with his other skill sets.
He can, and we've seen that time and time again with him this year. Obviously, these other guys are a little bit more need to be tested. So a couple of other names. I do actually like Danny Berger and Joel Damon teaming up together. I think maybe a little bit of ownership, but not too much. That was a featured pair in the morning. Kevin, it's funny how it's sent over to you. It says Kevin Twitter. It's Kevin Tway, not Kevin Twitter. Charles Howell and Matt Wolfe are paired together. That's the other featured pair in the morning. Kevin Tway last time out gained 2 strokes tee to green in his two rounds and lost just about 4 putting. Are you back into Tway this week? Pretty decent results here. Pretty good.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. This is a weird course because very generous. Off the tee is important, but at the same time, it's hard to kind of separate yourself, in my opinion, because it's very generous fairways. If you're not hitting these fairways, you're in massive trouble, but you should be able to. So a guy like that with a lot of length, I'm not sure how much he can use that, but at the same time, he should be in perfect position off the tee, and the rest of his game has been solid. At Travelers, obviously, he caught a hot putter, but we've seen him. He's won on tour. I have no problem if you want to go there. I'm not making it a priority to get him, but if I land in that price range, he's certainly a guy I would target.
Yeah, Charles Howell, his playing partner, maybe a little bit more expensive. I think 400 or 500 more dollars has been pretty good stretch here through this mid West swing. Is he a priority for you this week?
Not really. Again, just someone that, the way my lineups kind of fell, I didn't really fall in that range too much. And when I did, there were kind of other eyes. But that's someone I actually want to toss right back at you. What do you make of him?
Yeah, he's one that I debated a lot, and
Hmm.
here's the problem: is that Sung Jae is $200 more,
Similar
right?
to me. Yep.
So if I had the salary, it would be going to him, and where I wanted $200 more to spend, I found myself going to Danny Berger because for some reason I just see similar upside with them. I know I've kind of talked out against Danny Berger, but here's the thing that I like is that first off, he's finally found a little bit of form. 15th last week. I know he missed the cut at Travelers, but it was a pretty bad putting week for him. So I like Danny Berger. I think you're getting half the ownership there as well. And also, there's my guy Brian Harmon right there who loves this course and is
Yeah,
coming in off
Harmon.
of good form. So I didn't find myself going to Howell that much. Although the two spots in the higher dollars where I needed the $100 and $200. So that's why I found myself going to Berger and Harmon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a similar spot. It's not the 9K range in general wasn't where I went outside of him too much. And when I did, someone like Harmon, who he's got a good combination of off the tee, he's a good putter. I just feel a little more comfortable with him.
Absolutely. All right, so those are the featured pair. We've talked about every featured pairings that you're going to get to see over the next couple of days if you have PGA Tour Live. So now we can get in, and we'll go back to now. I'll group the top four guys together here, and obviously Matt Wolfe coming off the win. I mean, we've seen him in college go win, plenty of wins in a row. Looks like he's going to be 10%, and the other three guys, Neiman, Hovland, and Morikawa, all going to be around 20%. Are you making it a priority to get one over the other? Are you spreading the ownership here, or is it just one guy that you're focusing on?
So I did spread it a bit. I think obviously it's such a ridiculous situation. It's unprecedented. These guys, they just busted on the scene, and Wolfe already won. Morikawa easily could have won that tournament. Hovland's probably played the best. He's got a little longevity compared to the other two. And then you've got Neiman, who's just kind of chilling, but it is wild. Wolfe is a guy that I think he can continue. I'm not saying he's going to win again this week, but it's not like, oh, he won, I'm just going to exclude him by any stretch. The one guy for me, Morikawa, was the odd man out. I really like Hovland. I like Neiman. I think, they're just so aggressive off the tee. I really am interested to see what they do with a course like this. So I know Morikawa has been absolutely phenomenal. You've been on him. You got me on him for a while now. That's the lower guy for me. Did you spread it, or did you make kind of a similar stand with someone?
It's tough. So I'll give just a quick little tidbit of where these guys stand. Obviously, Wolfe is fully exempt now. So Colin Morikawa needs basically a top 30 to secure full status. He's got the special temporary membership, which means he's get unlimited sponsor exemptions for the rest of the year. Doc Redman is also in that category. Hovland actually is not. Hovland still needs about 150 points to get into the special temporary membership. This is his fourth official start, so he's got two more sponsor exemptions after this. A top 10 basically gets him there. Obviously, it gets him another start as well. So why am I bringing all this up? Well, it's probably because I'm leaning more towards Hovland for that reason. He's just got a little bit more to play for. Morikawa, like I said, he's got sponsor exemptions the rest of the year. He's easily going to get his card. Wolfe already has his card. And here's the thing about Hovland. In the four starts, 2.81, 1.72, 1, and 2.55 are the strokes gained ball striking. We're talking about a kid that has had four starts or three starts on the PGA Tour as a pro. So that's incredibly consistent and very good. The putting hasn't been great, so we're waiting for that to click in. These guys have been playing a lot recently, so that's also something to take into consideration. Because of that, in my biggest dollars, I skipped them all. I started at the $400 level. That's where I started to play it.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's just such a similar situation where I think everyone, and it's hard not to, they're drawing conclusions just based on small sample sizes. And it's not to say that these guys aren't going to be good. I think we know that by now. But maybe the stats aren't going to be what they are right now. And maybe one of them is going to emerge. Wolfe won. I think Hovland right now probably is the guy that I trust the most. He is also the most expensive. So it's really just kind of combining. And, in some spots, you're going to need to take the savings. I will say real quick, and you and me have been on this from the beginning, I think a lot of people are starting to notice, on Yahoo, Matthew Wolfe is still the min. The other two are in the 20s. I don't know how you don't play them. You just kind of have to.
If you're playing over there, you just have to probably suck it up and deal with the ownership. And that's the thing where if these guys were priced with Daniel Berger this week, I think you and I are probably going to spend a lot more time talking about them because they're more reasonable. The fact of the matter is they're the 3 highest priced golfers on the slate now.
Insane.
It's more okay to fade them, especially in your single entry stuff. I think you can make a really quality lineup without these guys in it. And you're going to get the highest ownership on them all and the highest price. So it's okay if you're going to pick and choose to fade. If you're an MME player, of course, I'm going to have him, and Morikawa. I think Morikawa's got the best swing of the 3. Again, it's the most traditional. So when I say that, what do I really mean? I'm not a swing expert. I just like this swing the most. I think it's the most repeatable. I think when you get into crunch time, it has the least amount of opportunities to have holes in it. However, Matt Wolfe just beat him out. So I guess we can't really say that. I mean, I guess in 10 times out of 10, you'd rather be where Morikawa was on 18 than Wolfe, but Wolfe had a great read on that putt and so on and so forth. So, it is tough for me in the 3, especially that they're all going to be 20% except Wolfe. So if I do go over it would only be because of ownership in Wolfe. I think that's pretty much my stance there. Anything else you want to add on those guys?
No, I mean, it's just one of those situations. They're immensely talented. It's very hard to know when we look back. It might be that, wow, they were actually easy plays here considering the big gap where they ended up. Or can you believe that any of them were this price ever if they end up struggling? So we'll have to see. I'm more apt to kind of say you're not sacrificing that much win equity if you want to make a stand. These are still relatively young players, and we have a lot of options if you choose to save.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go down to the next price range and talk about the chalk there a little bit. And it's interesting. This nightcast kind of sectioned out to be all similar. Charles Howell, Joel Damon, Lucas Glover, Zach Johnson, Brian Harmon, all around 15 to 20%. Sung Jae Im is going to lead that. He's going to be over 20%. So of those 6 guys, do you see yourself getting overweight on any, say, 2X or so, or are you focusing on other players?
So, obviously the ownership dictates some of that. Im is a guy that I know I'm going to get over. I made him a priority. But then you look at someone like Dahmen that you mentioned and guys like that. I have no problem with the play, but I don't think I'm going to end up making a huge stand. I have just a sliver of them, but I don't think they're going to be overly popular. And I'm not too worried. Sometimes I think it's okay. Obviously, you don't need 0% or 5x leverage. Sometimes, I say, I don't want this guy to beat me. I'm going to take a plus or minus a couple percent of what I think the field will have and live to fight another day.
Yeah, and I think in a week like this where a field is so wide open, I mean, you see the odds leader, I think it's 20-1, and it's Morikawa. In places, I guess he's 16. It's insane, first of all, that Morikawa is legitimate odds favorite of a golf tournament, and he's played 3 or 4 times. It's incredible. But here we are. So other players, though, that have been around the tour a lot longer, some with good course history, that are have some leverage spots. One of the biggest plays for me of the week, Scott Brown, a couple of other players, Ryan Moore and Ryan Palmer, so a pair of Ryans. What do you make of those 3 guys? We'll throw Kevin Tway in there. They're all around 10% or under. Any good leverage for you there, or are you taking the leverage elsewhere this week? And if so, where?
Ryan Palmer was an interesting name. I was kind of hoping he would be lost for to an extent. He hasn't been around too much. Certainly hasn't popped, but he is a guy we've seen. He can go low. Obviously, the putter is the kryptonite with him, but that's a lot of guys in this field. So I have some of him. I'm not sure I'll get huge leverage because I didn't make a gigantic stand. Ryan Moore was the tricky one for me. Him and Zach Johnson, obviously their games. I mean, ZJ, we know he loves this course. I actually didn't get to much of either of them, to be honest. A little more worried about Moore, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. How much did you really go to him, or are you okay kind of maybe trying to get away with it?
So here's the thing that I had this week. We got Ryan Moore at 92, Sam Burns at 9-1, and Wyndham Clark at 9. And Burns and Clark have been 72 and 7,100 for the whole year, right? And Ryan Moore has been 8,000 or above the whole year, right? And now we got a week where they're all the same. I'm probably still going to play Sam Burns and Wyndham Clark over Ryan Moore. It's just that I think that they probably have more upside right now. I know that Ryan Moore is certainly a good seasoned veteran player. I'm not taking that away. Mm-hmm. But Burns and Clark have shown some gusto certainly recently. And Burns, when he gets hot, if you look at his track record last year, he stays hot. So I'm actually going to roll with Burns this week over Moore. Looks like we're going to get similar ownership. It looks like Burns is going to come in right around 10%, 10.5%, something like that. So more Burns, Clark. Where are you going with those three?
Going to be Burns. He's someone that I've been on for a couple of weeks too. You mentioned it. He gets hot. He stays hot. We saw him, I was really disappointed on Saturday. I was sulking from my Cam Davis implosion. Then Sam Burns did nothing. Then I woke up on Sunday and he was already like 5 or 6 under, I feel like, and he posted a gigantic round similar to Glover. And that's what you see. Another guy incredibly aggressive off the tee, and he's a good putter. That's a deadly combination when you have it going.
So very frustrating because Saturday he did not make a putt inside of 15 feet. He missed 9 putts inside of 15 feet. I'm sorry, he made 1 on the 18th hole. So he was 1 of 11. It was insane. Very frustrating to watch. He was on my biggest team. And then on Sunday, great round. Like you said, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun watching him. They put him on PGA Tour Live, and he was part of coverage right when it came on because he was making a move. Of course, he stands up on 18. He needs a par for the bogey-free round. He needs a birdie to post a better number than Glover. And what does he do? He throws it in the water. It's just like, dude, put it anywhere in play. Give yourself a shot at the eagle. That was very frustrating. Also, just to see him get real close and just totally give away the golf tournament by putting it in the water there. I think of all the leaders, he was the only one to put it in the water too. So that was a little frustrating, but I'll be right back to him this week. He didn't even have a good putting week in the top 10. Like, that's almost unheard of for Burns. So love where the tee to green numbers are for this week for him. Wyndham Clark, also, he's been playing some really inspired golf. Did you get to him at all? I mean, 15, 17, and 5 in his last 3.
He's just a tough guy. We've talked about this before on the show. He does it differently, and that always makes it difficult when you're trying to break down guys because you're like, oh, this is unsustainable. But you know what? For him, clearly he is an excellent short game player. We know he's a good driver of the ball. He's just bad with the irons, which is kind of bizarre. I didn't get there, though, this week. I really didn't. The price is up. He's been kind of, I don't want to say killing me because I've had exposure, but this is a week where I rolled that to Burns, and I feel pretty comfortable with it.
Yeah, me too. So 8K or low 8K. Did you find yourself anybody? Have I turned you on to Scott Brown at all?
Little Scott Brown, Martin Laird, just ridiculous stats if you look at last week. Gained a ton on the approach, god-awful putting. It's something that kind of stood out. So when I did find myself down there, him and Scott Brown were guys that I didn't mind going to before I jumped into the high 7s.
Yeah, great transition. Let's go to the high 7s. I'm going to talk about the chalk for a second here, and I've got to be completely honest before we even get in. I'm not playing much of the guys I'm about to mention. They're all chalk, and I've done well fading this 7K chalk range the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to try and ride that out. Looks like we're going to get Troy Merritt, Vaughn Taylor, and Peter Malnati as kind of the top 3 owned. Sam Ryder checks in as 4th. I'm going to play Sam Ryder of any of the 4. I like his stats better. He's got a better course history with that 2nd place last year. How about you? Of those 4 guys, looks like they'll be the chalkiest.
Yeah, Peter Malnati is the guy that I'll play. I like him. He's a good putter who hasn't been putting great. The other ones, Vaughn Taylor, a lot of people have asked me about him. I think he's a fine cash play. I think he probably finds the weekend, but I think you can get by not using him if you're trying to win the drive to green. He's not someone that screams have in the portfolio by any stretch. So I'm more apt to pivot to someone like Sam Ryder. For me, obviously, we've done enough shows together. I'm playing Dylan Fratelli, obviously.
Yep.
Another man gained 7 strokes with the irons last week, lost 5 putting. Don't do that, Dylan. Just make all the putts, and then your life is easier. We'll see.
The problem with him is that
he's got problems.
It's always the putter. I shouldn't say always. Valero lost 8. Byron lost 6. Travelers lost 6.
He
3M
wasn't-
lost. I just don't understand what is in. Remember that putt that he missed
You have
that
to
he
be
thought
more
was to make
specific.
the cut? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, at the PGA. My God.
Yeah, I think was it the PGA? Yes, it
I
was
don't
the PGA to make the cut. No. It was no, it was at the Byron. It was at the Nelson. That's right, dude. And he moved the
Yeah,
cut line and everything. Anyways, makes sense. I think his statistically his game would be fine for here. He also was good, 50 to 125 yards last week. So I'm into Fratelli. But another guy that you and I like to play, I'm actually really high on. Had a chance to win the Rocket Mortgage before falling off. I'm talking about JT Postman. It's actually
yeah. That
big play for me this week.
sign me up. He was someone that was my that was we were going car shopping on Saturday for sure after that bad boy. And then when you shoot 2 over in Sunday and you finish in like 30th, he was in the final pairing. I don't know if there's a little hangover from that, obviously, but at the same time, he's another one. I know I'm beating this to death. He's a good driver of the ball and he's a good putter. Not the best irons. Obviously, you're not going to find everything. If he was, he'd be 10,000 with the really good guys, but he's someone that I have no problem buying in a field like this.
Yeah, it looks, and I'm just looking at his stats. It looks like he was thrilled to get off that power run that they had, through the middle there with
Yep.
PGA, Byron, and so on. He was just dreadful. I am not worried about the hangover, and reason is because I feel like with a guy like him, he had last week off, so he's still out in 11th place, so it's not that bad. I think he's ready to jump right back in. He's coming to a field where he could consider himself one of the better players in the field. So I really like Boston. He's one of my big plays this week. I think he sets up well. So, all right, moving on to 7K. There's not actually too much chalk outside of the guys that I mentioned. So we'll transition right into our Make the Cut segment where it's basically rapid fire. If you guys are new to the show, not quite rapid fire. We talk about the guys a little bit. So we're going to start right off with a guy we mentioned a couple of times and a stat. I'll throw out a stat that our guy Vots threw out in our premium channel today. Leads this field in DraftKings scoring over the last 50 rounds, and it's Taylor Gooch. Does he make the cut, and are you playing him?
Taylor Gooch is one of the every week I really have trouble with this guy because he is basically, you just mentioned, one of the best iron players on tour. And if you're one of those, it's hard not to say that he fits the bill. But he also has ridiculously bad stretches. And the rest of his game is really not up to par. So that's a long-winded way of saying that I'm actually not playing him too much. If he gets the nuclear round, yeah, you can get it. I'm more interested in him in something like Showdown, to be honest, where you can kind of get 18 holes, not 72.
Yeah, I like Matt Every, Taylor Gooch, kind of on Showdown. I played Taylor Gooch, and I mentioned this. Max Homa scored more points than Taylor Gooch on FanDuel, and Gooch played all 4 days. So obviously, and Homa only played 3. So yeah, I'm not in love with Gooch this week at 7,700. I just think that somebody like Cameron Tringale, who I'll throw right back at you, who was brought up to us a couple of times, irons remained pretty good last week. Does he make the cut, and did he make the pool?
Well, he better make the cut. Need him to make the cut.
Okay.
Just a guy playing really consistent. He's found something. Actually thought, he kind of, I don't want to say broke through a couple weeks ago. He really didn't putt much. He was just striking it fantastic. I think that carries over.
Good, yeah.
And no problem with him. I think he's priced pretty fairly.
Yeah, I do too. I think 7,700 for a guy that just top 5 a couple of weeks ago, I think is reasonable price. I do think he makes it through as well. Cameron Champ, let's talk about him. Why not? Because it's fun. He went, as you just said, absolutely nuclear. 1 round. That's it. Just 1 round at Rocket Mortgage. Hasn't done anything since. Surprise, surprise. Are you driving back at all? Like anything?
No.
It's so funny. When you look at his statistical board that I'm looking at, he literally only has ever gained strokes putting and off the tee. He doesn't gain strokes anywhere else. It's just not sustainable on the PGA Tour. I know he's already a PGA Tour winner. I'll play a little bit because this is a good tournament for him. Make a lot of birdies, I guess. But,
he shows flashes of it, and you're like, wow, that guy's amazing.
Yeah.
He comes in 46th even when he shoots like 10 under on the front.
What?
Just not for me. He's got to learn how to he needs the rest of his game. There's a lot of guys like this on tour. He just happens to do it off the tee. Bo Hostler's one of them. Taylor Gooch is kind of one of them. They just need the rest of their game to just be just average, and then they can excel with one skill set. But that's not what he is right now.
A guy that's treated me super well this year, that in a field like this is 7,400, and you're like, what? Johnny Vegas, but boy, oh boy, the form is turning to like Kyle Stanley.
Yeah, what happened to him
2 months ago? You look, since the PGA absolute atrociousness, it has been really, really bad. So, missed the cut even at the BMW International a couple of weeks ago on the Euro Tour. He's one of the lowest ranked OWGR in the field. Are you playing him or no?
I looked at him just because, like you mentioned, this is a guy, as you well know, at the Players, did some massive work, and he's pedigree-wise better than most of this field. Having said that, he is kind of a form guy, and it's just not working right now for him. So I ultimately didn't get there.
I didn't either. Another popular guy in this range, top 10 here last year, Harold Varner.
Yeah, HV3, that's a name that I think he kind of fits the profile. He can be aggressive off the tee, not be punished, can go low, needs to make some putts, and I'm hoping, I wasn't shocked to see him maybe have a little hangover again. It's a life-changing situation. You're in the last group in a major. It unravels fast, which I don't think anyone was stunned to see. And then, you go right back at it. And since then, it can be a little erratic. So I think he bounces back and makes another cut and plays just fine.
Ryan Armour?
Yeah, it feels cashy. Kind of like Vaughn Taylor for me. No real feel.
It doesn't seem like a great course for him. Relying on the putter and approach last week, which is good. That's what we want to see, no doubt about it. But he hasn't gained more than that 0.6 of a stroke. He hasn't gained a stroke on his approaches since the Valspar. So I'm not quite there. I love the guy. I'm a fan, total fan, but don't think I'm going to play him that much. 7,300, also same price as him. Sepp Straka, the ball striking machine. Are you going to play any of him? And then also same price, Joey Garber came out of kind of nowhere last week. So any of either of those guys?
So these guys, man, this is a really important range. Good luck if you figure it out. I certainly have not. I actually rolled those shares to Doc Redman.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to say Bo Hostler, and I was like, oh, good, we're really going to go down together.
No, I do have some Bo Hostler. I want to be clear, which is disturbing on multiple levels. We haven't got to stay tuned, Chad. It's about to really go off the rails because I've done some horrible things as we get a little lower. But Straka and Garber, yeah, they're playing great. We know the stats line up. Ultimately, though, they're guys that I'm still a little skeptical of kind of where they're at. They're going to not be unpopular, and that's really the time to target them is, sub 5%. They're going to garner some steam based off the recent form.
Yeah, I'm actually – I'll pitch to Bo Hostler. It sounds like you're already playing a little bit, but I'll say this. He was top 14 or 12 in the field last week in proximity from 50 to 125 yards. He gained strokes off the tee. He gained strokes on the approach. He gained strokes putting. So it's like, all right, well, we know that he's got the pedigree. 7,300 seems like a good price to buy into a little bit of Hostler. So I don't know. It's just so erratic. It's plus 3 strokes at Travelers on the approaches. Now, granted, that was really all in one hole where he threw like 8 into the water on 17 and went from a high 15th to an MDF in one hole. It was incredible. It was really fun to watch. So I actually also like Doc Redman. He was massively popular last week, and I faded him, and I'm hoping that everybody that played him.
Don't worry, I held up our end for the show. You weren't here. I told the masses not to play Doc Redman.
Did you?
Yes, I did. We
avoided
that trap on the show.
I'm glad because it's a career-changing event. You got to give the guy at least a week, right? At least a week. So I'm back in this week. I think it's a good setup for him. He had that one bad hole. Just talking about Bo Hostler, he had one bad hole last week that led to 77. Bounce back nicely. So, yeah, I'm into Doc Redman as well.
Well, I've tried to avoid it for a while now, but we're at the price range. And I swear to God, I came into the Tuesday show not looking to talk about Russell Henley. But then I dug, and Tim mentioned it as well. Russell Henley had a very, very good ball striking week last week. He missed another cut. That is the 6th out of the last 7 for him. But if there was a week to jump on, if you haven't been playing him, I think this is probably a week to take a real close look at him.
Goes to show you where Russell Henley's game is, that he feels he has to come play here. He hasn't played here since 2014. It's bad. I wonder if somebody made a joke about Spieth being here. I wonder when we're going to see him here again. Yeah, dude, it is really bad. He scored 40 DraftKings points last week. Why did he miss the cut? There's no reason for him to miss the cut.
He is just – so the thing – this is a classic situation of macro versus recent form. Russell Henley, and we have a long history, is a good putter. Yeah, he's a Bermuda guy, but he's still a good putter. And he has lost strokes putting in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 straight events, and he lost 3.5 last week. Now, if that changes and he strikes it well, he's going to start making cuts, and he's like $7K in majors when he's in form. Yep. This is obviously an egregious price. But where he's at right now, he is as bad could be. So I totally understand if you don't want to go there. I found myself still going there. It wasn't even a plan. It's just I felt more comfortable with him than some of the other options we had at the low 7s, high 6s.
One guy that's definitely going to earn some steam this week that is in that low 7s is Hank Lebioda. Good ball striking week for him as well last week on the approaches. It's actually back-to-back weeks for him on the approaches. So any shares of Hank the Tank or Roger Sloan, who kind of popped last week?
Chad just mentioned Roger Sloan. I think that's an interesting play. He has some upside. He's a guy we've seen here and there. Obviously, you're not going to see it week in and week out. Lebioda, I don't have really a strong take on, to be honest. I sadly prefer Henley. I even prefer Sloan. So that's where I found myself going when I was in desperate need for a low 7K guy.
I got one more name for you before we move on to below 7K, and then we're going to get into some Scottish Open takes. It's I love it, and DraftKings giving us 10K up top. I believe there's still a little room in that left. Before I came on, there was. It might have filled up since, but anyways, we'll give just a couple of picks on that. But this guy that I'm about to tell you has gained strokes the last 2 weeks in every facet of his game. Priced at 7,200, a PGA Tour winner, believe it or not. Bryce Garnett. Yeah, I know it's not a sexy name, but at 3.6% ownership, gaining strokes everywhere the last 2 weeks, I'm interested. Course history is terrible, so that's no surprise. So I'm not overweight or anything like that, but I am interested. The last 2 weeks have looked good.
That's a guy that I think that's actually a pretty interesting call because – and you could take this for what it's worth, but if you look at his overall history, he seems to be a form guy. He gets on a run, he rips off 3 or 4 tournaments, then he misses 8, 9 cuts in a row, and then he kind of does it again. So, we saw him, in late 2018, OHL, he was 5th, 37th at RSM, 19th Tournament Champions, which that's not saying much, 33 at Sony. That's really just kind of a string of form that we kind of could look to.
Absolutely. Okay, we got Zach Suture as the first guy below 7K I want to talk about. He needs another cut to get himself into that category of the 125 to 150, which obviously gives him full-time status next year. Right now, he's playing out of the 150 to, I think it's like 200. I'm not exactly sure of that category. 150 to 200 is it, which means he'll get some starts. He won't get a ton of starts. So I do like him. He made the cut here back in 2015. Also decent from 50 to 125 yards last week. Zach Sutter, any of him?
Not really. I don't know much about him, to be honest, but I just didn't find myself really going there. I'd rather go for these high 6s guys that I've seen a little more on, to be honest.
Yep. I got a guy that I know, and the phone that was going off must know we're about to talk about this guy because this is your guy, and you turned me on to him, and then I dug, and then I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. We've got like 4 straight events where we're getting strokes tee to green, and we're talking about Robert Streb. So you brought me on to him early, then I dug, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. The course history is terrible other than back in 2015. He's missed 3 straight cuts here, but the form has not nearly been good. What else do you want to tell me about Robert Streb? That I can tell you one thing: he doesn't wear a glove. He has a 10-finger grip. He's one of the only people on tour that has that. But what else do you want to tell me about him?
Striking it great. That's just This goddamn phone is going to kill me. But
What is the phone?
It's somewhere in my apartment. I'll deal with it in a minute. But yeah, Streb, I'm going to throw it right back to you. Streb and Mullinax are the two guys in the high sixes that I'm really into. What say you?
Okay, so Mullinax, I know I saw that a couple of people played him last week. He's been so good off the tee, but his irons now 3 straight weeks have been so bad. Around the green has been so bad. I just can't get there. I need him to make a cut again. I need to see him be okay with his irons. Like, even if we go back to Canada, where he was basically matched the field, he lost 0.11 strokes. Honestly, I cannot do it. I would much rather play, and this is my biggest play below 7K this week, I'd rather play Adam Svensson, who the guy can't lose strokes tee to green like ever. I know he lost a little bit of Travelers, but he's third in the field in strokes gained tee to green. He's the worst putter. I mean, he is terrible. But for a course like this and a week like this, if he just has one good putting round Thursday or Friday, he gets through the cut. So that's where my shares went. Has Adam Svensson popped up on your radar?
Not really, to be honest. I just couldn't get there in the sense that I can't trust that he's ever going to putt well.
I know. It's.
Do you want to lead off our Scottish takes? Okay. I'm going to find his phone.
Yeah, no problem. Right back. Yeah, no problem.
Take it away. I want to talk a little Scottish.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little Scottish while Ben finds that phone, which I'm sure to everybody it's a little bit annoying, so that's good. The Scottish, this year it's being played at the Renaissance Club, which for me, I wish I had played it. It's along the Gullen Coast, so if you guys have watched the Scottish Open the last few years, last year it was at Gullen Golf Club, which I played at. The year before that, it was at Dundonald, which is a little bit more south. We're back. We found the phone. So the Renaissance Club it's really unique that it's a par 71, but ready for this, it has 4 par 5s and 5 par 3s. So it plays like a normal par 72, but it has just 1 more par 3 than it does par 4. So interesting scoring will be like a par 72, so I expect it to be good. However, it's on the coastline. I was mentioning it's in North Berwick. Which is right on the coastline where I stayed, right outside of Edinburgh. And so we're going to get weather. We don't know when. We're not going to try and predict it at all. Excuse me, but we've got a great field. Kuchar and Fowler have been going over for years. They're joined by a bunch of guys. JT this year. Rory's even playing this year. So, are you playing Euro? If so, I'm of course fully degenerating it. It's a tournament that I love. I love getting up on Sunday morning and watching the Scottish Open, and hopefully I'll have a sweat. But I will say my first line, I started with Kuchar. I found myself needing the $800, and I found myself trusting Kuchar at a Scottish Open more so than Fowler this week. And more so than JT this week. I don't know why. Normally, I would never play Kuchar at 11K. But I feel like the way Euro sets up, you just need to get 6 of 6 through. I know when we had the Scottish Open live final, I remember I was debating between Kuchar and McIlroy. I went McIlroy, and it cost me first place. So I'm not making that mistake again.
Yeah, I mean, the Euro is such a you don't think that the different cut rule makes a difference, but it
really does. Yeah, 65 is just
obviously, as you mentioned, we're going to get weather. It's a good prep, and that's why the guys are over there, obviously, to get acclimated for what we will see with the British next week. I may play a little. Obviously, I'm full disclosure. Part of it is I'm going up. Saratoga opens. I'll be at the track tomorrow, so I won't be sweating as much golf. But I will say, when I looked at the pricing, I don't mind actually starting more balanced, something like Stenson up top. I think there's a lot of plays within there. And I found myself kind of interested in some of the, we've seen some of these guys, the Hattons of the world, but someone like Andy Sullivan stood out to me. He's a Brit. He's played a little over here, in form, obviously doesn't mind the conditions. And as you said, this is just a different type of golf. You're going to get some weird changing winds, changing rain, kind of hold on for dear life in certain spurts. And that's what you're going to be used to for next week.
Yeah, Sullivan and Wiesberger, 2 names that you may not be terribly familiar with that are priced in that 8 to 9K range of that kind of second. They both came runner-up last week, so they both punched their ticket to the Open Championship. Both sitting in good spot in the race to Dubai, so maybe not a ton to play for there with them. I I went to Russell Knox there at 8,300, who will certainly be popular. You mentioned one of the things I think it's great, and I put out a free article, so everybody that wants a little bit more, go ahead and go into the PGA article section. I wrote up a little bit about the Scottish Open this week. So, and one of the things that Ben mentioned, it's top 65 in ties for the cut makes a difference. I assure you it makes a difference. Almost every week you see T68 not make the cut, and it's brutal when your guy is sitting right there. The other thing is that it's very, very concentrated. So whereas in a PGA event, especially this week, like the John Deere Classic, you're going to get probably like 70 guys over 3 or 4% owned. It's just the way that it works in a field like this. At the Scottish Open, you're going to have 25 guys at 3 or 4 owned. It's just very concentrated. It may not necessarily be super chalky this week. Normal weeks it is. You'll see the top guys be 40, 50, 60% owned. I don't think you're going to see that this week. The field is a little bit too strong for that. However, again, it'll be concentrated. It'll be focused on those 30 guys that everybody knows. And that's where I think there is a little bit of an edge that I found in Euro. If you do want to dig, you can find some guys that nobody will play ever, and nobody probably knows about.
Oh, no doubt about that. Euro, especially on weeks like this, obviously next week's a major, so it's a little different, but there's just a name recognition ownership bump. Guys that primarily come over here, people see like EVR, Berger, those guys are just more household names than they were at the beginning. And there's still a new batch of guys that still primarily play in Europe that I have no problem targeting. I actually think you should target Paul Dunn, Matthias Schwab, the types like that who are guys. I don't know if this is the week for either of them, but they're names that when I play in Europe, I really like to go to both of them. I think they're just very quality players.
Absolutely. So just wanted to give a few notes.
Yeah.
It's a really good prize pool. I love playing. But we did have a few questions that we want to get to. And this is good because this is more, it looks like, for Showdown, which is good. It's a pretty decent prize pool, $2,000 for first place tomorrow and $8. So let's see here. Favorite round one plays? I actually love Matt Every. When Matt Every goes off in the morning, you can almost bet on him having a chance at a first round lead. So I don't mind Matt Every at all. I like playing guys in the morning just because I think they get a fresher golf course. So
Same.
I'll use Matt Every as my top. How about you? And then we've got, looks like 6 questions.
I think obviously there's a couple big name guys teeing off early. If you want a dark horse, Sean Stefani goes off really early. He's another guy. He can get hot with the irons, make some noise, kind of rack up the birdies.
Okay, this one is looks like, let me just make sure. Okay, so this is for tomorrow. Looks like Wyndham Clark, Kevin Tway, Bud Cauley, Nate Lashley, Denny McCarthy, and Johnny Vegas. Looks like Clark, Tway, and Cauley are all priced kind of together, and then McCarthy and Vegas are below. So what are your thoughts for tomorrow's slate? Do you like any of them over the other guys? Me personally, Kevin Tway does seem to be a fast starter at times. First round lead over at the one before the Sony Tournament Champions. Thank you. There we go. My favorite tournament, actually. First round lead there was close again at Sony. So I like Kevin Tway for first round lead, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Bud Cauley's a guy. I've had a couple questions on him today. I think he's an interesting one-off. He's not going to be too popular. Other than that, Vegas, Lashley, not guys that I'm going to. But as we said, not to kind of, this is an easy out, but it's true. With the lack of win equity up top, it is as wide open can be. So if you have a line on a guy, I think this is a great betting week to take some real shots because anybody could win this thing. It is that wide open.
Denny McCarthy was ridiculously hot with his putter, but that's 3 straight weeks in a row now where he's gained over a stroke with his putter. It just seems like I don't think he's Jordan Spieth, so I think it's going to end. However, if we go back all the way to the players, he's gained more than 1 stroke, like 6 or 7 different times. It's just not something you want to bank on, I guess, for a showdown, because if that goes awry, he's going to end up with like 6 points, like 6 pars and a bunch of bogeys and maybe a couple birdies. So I would rather, in the first round showdown slate, I would rather see somebody take more of a risk and go down to an Adam Svensson who we know has been playing really good tee to green in that scenario. So any questions that we missed from the YouTube chat tonight?
No, we did have someone ask just if we could kind of just try to summarize our thoughts real quick on the top. And I said for me, it's really, I think that I'm more apt to take a little savings, whether it's with Sunjay Im or Neiman, than going all the way up and pay for those big three. And from there, maybe I can get some extra salary on the back end of my rosters.
I love all three of these guys for the next 10, 20 years. I'm not going to lie to you. But if there was ever a time to fade them, it would be this week because they're the highest price. Morikawa has been playing a ton of golf. I'm not going to fade them fully, but I'm not going to overweight them this week. If they were cheaper, I would. But because of their price, I'll likely, as you always say, which I think is a great line, I'm going to play them where I think the field is going to be on them and try and make the combinations that make it work.
Fair enough. Most important part of the show. You're back. You had a week off to rest. See, I've been in the grind.
I would have nailed it, dude. I would have nailed it. I would have had Morikawa winning probably. So I would have lost.
I had Charlie Hoffman related. It was not a good situation.
Not good.
I had been on a little run because I've been using the Chilean Amateur to help my cause.
Yes.
Let's see. What do I want to say here? I could just sacrifice it by saying something stupid about Russell Henley, but I don't really want to do that. I'm gonna say that, you know what? I'm gonna say that JT Poston.
No, you're stealing it.
Oh, you want that one? I can pivot. I can use Fratelli, but I'm gonna say that JT Poston builds on his Rocket Mortgage showing. Yes. And actually hangs on for a nice, I'm going to say a top 5.
Yeah, I love it. I actually bet him top 10 earlier today at 8-1. I think this field is great. I think I could probably get a little bit better odds on the top 5. I'm tempted to bet him to win as well, just because we saw him so close at the Rocket, and he's better than most of the guys in this field. He's had a really good year. So I'm joining you on the JT Postman top 10. You said top 5, so you're going a little bit more aggressive than me. I like it.
First of all, Mike in chat, smart man. I should have just said something about Bill Haas. I don't know why I didn't just do an Bill Haas take.
Yeah, come on.
I'm slacking. What can I say, folks? Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Let's see. Austin Treslow is a guy that's gone back-to-back on Monday qualifiers. I know it's not a name we've seen much, but I just like guys that are grinders. And this guy's second straight Monday qualified. I'll have a couple of shares of that. Just one more quick note. No, screw him. Sorry. I'm not talking about him. He's not ready yet. Anders Alberson. He's not ready yet.
No, he's not ready. He's showing a little
bit though, right? If there was ever a week that he was going to come back and make a cut and make a splash, it would be this one. There was one other guy. Actually, it had nothing to do with playing, although he did have a good week last week, except for around the green. Mr. Robert Pothead Garrigus has a meeting with the commissioner to talk about legalizing marijuana for the PGA Tour this week. So that should be interesting. I'm just interested to see what comes out of that because we know that Mickelson and Woods are chewing the CBD gum now. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that conversation. Maybe it'll set the precedent for a couple of other sports to follow suit. So
interesting.
That was my other quick tidbit. We gave our hot take. I can't wait for the Open. It really is fun because we're done with golf and a major and a chance at $1 million at 1:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday. That's really cool. But I can stay up all night and watch golf too. So that's great.
It's a great time. I love that major. Obviously, we are going to have a ton of content. Come on in if you haven't signed up. We'd love to have you. We will be back here next week. And I just want to, again, give a special shout out to Majors Challenge, a cool website that if you haven't checked it out, go there. You can learn about the pools, see what they're offering, and just take a peek. So on that note, we're going to get out of here. Good to have you back. And like I said, come back next week. The British Open, the last major of the year on tap. Good luck, everyone. See you next week.